Yes, welcome. We've chosen immigrants and people in the global economy. The first question: what are some of the factors that influence people to move across national boundaries?
I believe that the factors that makes people cross national boundaries can be divided into two subgroups: push and pull factors, where the push factors pushes you out of the country, and the pull factors want you to immigrate to another country. Pull factors can be job opportunity, the American dream, government, women rights. You want a new, fresh start.
Yes.
There's no war.
Poverty as well.
Yeah, I would maybe consider that as a
push
push
factor.
factor.
Yes.
Very good.
Anything more?
Yeah, some of the push factors can be poverty and bad infrastructure, or that you want to get an education in another country. Do any of you want to elaborate on that?
No.
No. Move on. Question number 2. What were some of the governmental acts that restricted the immigration of various Asian peoples? Tell us about one of them in a bit more detail. Well, I could take that one. I read about the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, where earlier people from the Philippines, Vietnam, and Korea were not as tolerated in the American society as people from Western Europe and other countries in the Western world. So that was one act.
Yeah, another act was the Chinese Exclusion Act in 1882. That was the first law that had the specific point of excluding one ethnic group, and the law led to prohibited Chinese labor to work in the US, and it was intended to last for 10 years, but it was extended during the Magnusson Act, and it wasn't until and Chinese labor wasn't allowed in the US until 1943, but it was really strict. They wasn't allowed to property ownership, and they didn't have the same rights as an American citizens before 1963.
Anything more?
No.
No? Question 3. Who are the Hmong people and what was their role in the Vietnam War? How large is the Hmong population in the US today?
I can think something about that.
Yes.
The Hmong people was supporting the Americans during the Vietnam War, and when the war ended and the Americans lost, they were suppressed by the winners of the war, so they fled to America, where they was exposed again and discriminated by the American people, and they moved into kind of ghettos, and lots of criminality and gang criminality happened.
Yeah. After the Vietnam War, they also experienced genocide in.
Yes, they moved also to other NATO countries because they were recruited by the NATO and the CIA.
Yeah.
So they moved to France as well. Many people live in France today. And just to take the general about the Hmong people, they are originated from the mountainous regions of China and Eastern Europe.
And it's approximately 5 million Hmongs in the world today, and in the US it's 260,000.
So bottom line, they have experienced lots of bad things.
Yeah.
Next question. How do Walt's opinions of the Hmong people change in the movie? Well, at first, Walt tries to he rejects them in the way when Walt saved Tao from his cousins, his ill-influenced cousins. So after that, the Hmong people tried to offer him gifts and to welcome him into their home, but he wouldn't accept their proposals or
And
gifts.
he is very confused by their culture. he does things that are not that allowed in his
Yeah.
culture.
He has a very ethnocentrical approach to other cultures and is very American and traditional.
Yes.
Yeah.
Next question. To whom does he leave his car and why? What is the significance of this? Well, he leaves his very own 1972 Gran Torino to Tao, and many people were surprised by that because, as we're going to talk a little about later, the Gran Torino symbolizes um, the the um, the conservative and old American society, I believe. So
Yeah.
when he gave it to the boy from or a boy among boy, it was a surprise for his whole family, his whole
Yeah.
original
And
family.
yeah, it's of great significance because it shows his new love for Tao. He kind of looks at Tao as his new son
Mm.
because his own family is leaving him and doesn't care about him. Yeah.
I think it's important because the car stands for the better days of his life when he was younger
Yeah.
and what his values and family is really important to Walt, but his own family doesn't take care of him and it almost seems like they want him to die so they can inherit his money and wealth.
Ah.
But
They only use him.
Yeah,
Ah.
and the monks, on the other hand, welcomes him and nurses him and takes really good care of him.
Yeah, and I think when the Gran Torino is coming to use again, by Tao it symbolizes that Walt's life is getting better again from
Yeah,
his dark days.
His redemption.
Yeah.
Okay, analysis of Gran Torino characters. Is Clint Eastwood's character, Walt, is he a static or dynamic character?
I think he is a very dynamic
Yeah,
character
I agree.
in the matter of his values, at least, because he is going through the movie. He's going from a very racist person to a helping person. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we could see with Sue as well, the young girl in the Hamon family
Yeah.
who constantly
Approaches him.
him and invites him into their home, and when he's over for the traditional dinner of the Hmong people where several people are gathered, you can see how positive and
I think
it is.
he's full of prejudice and when he's faced with his thoughts and they're misproven, he develops into a better human. And when there's this scene where an old lady loses her groceries out of the bag and three boys move past her and they sexually harass her, and then he's like, what's up with the youth now? And then Tao helps her out and picks up her groceries and helps her with the bag.
So yeah, so his Hmong neighbors are kind of showing him
how to be a
Yeah.
better person.
yeah, and they are showing that the world is not so bad at all, and they are kind to him, despite of his family that are
And
really
his acts against them, they still give him another chance. I think.
Okay, next question. Symbolism. In what manner is the theft of the Gran Torino symbolic? What does the car symbolize? Why is Walt's lawn so important to him?
I think Walt's lawn symbolized the American importance of privacy and property. And when they trench pass into his ground, it's like an attack on Walt because it's his land and no one else should be there.
Yeah, it's a very conservative view
Yeah,
of
but
life. Yeah,
the Hmongs, they have a more friendly approach to their neighbors, so they're more like open for people to be on their
and
lawn.
inviting. Yeah,
Yeah,
and as well, it symbolizes how his neighborhood has turned into a ghetto,
Yeah.
and he wants to keep it the old way. So he tries to block his house and his lawn
Yeah.
away from what the neighborhood has become.
He isn't
Yes.
really open to change.
No, no.
And the theft, it's I think it symbolizes the turning point of his values because Tao is trying to take his most beloved belonging,
Mm.
and still he manages to forgive Tao,
Yeah.
and that symbolizes something very big. Yeah.
I agree.
And when Tao is coming
Yeah.
for redemption and working for him, he sees that this boy is really good, and he has good morals, and
Yeah.
this culture is good.
I think that theft, as you said, when Tao tries to steal the car, I feel as also Walt is feeling as his foreign neighbors are trying to steal the American, which I think the Gran Torino symbolizes is the American society, as I mentioned earlier. But Walt grows tolerant to Tao, as you mentioned, and forgives him for what he'd done. So that shows dynamic character. Okay, theme discussion. Gran Torino is a film about masculinity.
I
Have
don't
any
know.
to
I don't think it's the main theme
No.
of the movie.
Harry?
Of course, it's important where Walt takes Tao under his wing and he is kind of like the son he never had.
Mm.
I think.
Yeah, or he had a son, but his son is not like he wanted to.
Yeah,
No.
because
They don't respect him as much as
Yeah.
the monks.
His father and his eldest son tries to help him, but he can't do it with all his heart because his family is opposing it. And
Yeah. Next question. Gran Torino is a film about cultural differences, and personally, I think that's one of the main themes.
it did.
As we have mentioned several times, the lawn and how the monks approach him with gifts. How Walt is so skeptical at first, but during the movie he changes,
yeah.
and the
How
American
is-
society kind of meets
And
an
especially
Eastern
the scene
culture.
where he approaches this Hmong dinner, he kind of misreads lots of things in their culture, and but in the end, I think he manages to adapt and become friends with these people,
Yeah,
which are really strong, which are really far from him. Yeah.
It shows how hard it is to communicate with another culture. Like, he doesn't know that it's disrespectful to touch the little boy's head, and when he eats dinner, he always finishes his dishes because that's the Western culture, but in Asia, that's rude because then you don't get enough food.
So it pictures cultural misunderstandings. It's
Yeah,
really good.
and how culture meet, and that can create problems when there's none.
And the next one is Gran Torino is a film about racism. I feel that's one important theme, especially in the beginning of the movie. The prejudice, as we have said, towards the Hmongs, and also or Walt is skeptical towards everybody in his neighborhood. I feel, and
also these gangs are really
Yes.
racially organized.
Yes.
They are
True.
kind of there is a black gang and a Hmong gang and a white gang. So lots of racism.
Yes. Next, Gran Torino is a film about generational conflict. That's true. I think.
Yeah, it's partly the theme because of his parents. His children has left him alone in this neighborhood who has changed totally.
Yeah, after he missed
And
his wife.
they're not helping him out.
No, not at all. They're only using him, especially his grandchildren.
Yeah,
are really
especially
it's
his
really
grandchildren.
tough on him.
When